So how do newspapers cope in today's world? Now, they are experimenting with a few ways to stay afloat in the digital age. One of them would be cutting costs. The shortest way to do that would be to lay off jobs, share content, stopping delivery services, or adjusting delivery to several times a week instead of every day. Um, so, for example, if your parents used to order newspapers and have it delivered every day, now they will probably stop that completely and buy their newspapers, or better yet, they go for the online version. And a lot of newspapers do this. So, in May 2019, those of us in the industry were actually informed by Millennial that they would no longer be providing the print version come 1st January 2020. So if you wanted to make an ad on a pull out for 2020, they would tell you, sorry, we don't do that anymore, but we have instead a digital package where for some stories, 2 or 3 stories, and a banner that runs for 3 months, you would pay 12,000 ringgit instead of 17,000 for a full page ad. So these are things that are very attractive and helps newspapers to stay afloat in a time where people prefer to get their news online. Okay? So another way to increase revenue would be a form of micropayment or a small sum for content. So if you look at websites like Malaysia Kini, for example, let me pull up news story. Give me a second here. Okay, so I have here the link to Malaysia Kini. So Malaysia Kini is a good example of micropayment, basically paying a small fee to access the story. So in Malaysia Kini, you will see this. Unless you subscribe, you will not be able to see the full story, and the subscription works out to 20 a month or 200 a year. There's a free month's trial and some things like that. Overseas websites like, for example, New York Times has a number of free articles per visit, and once you hit that free article, you would have to pay. Okay, so subscription options are below. So all registered users will have free access. So if you notice, I actually scrolled down, but then I was blocked and I was told to subscribe. And what are the subscription options? So it's like 25 cents a week. And then if you subscribe, you want a special rate and you want a digital and print, they actually have another option as well for those who are domestic or local, and they have it sent over to you. So this is how a lot of news companies work today. Some, like The Guardian, actually rely on donations. They're one of the few international websites. This is the advertising one, so I'll go back to The Guardian instead. So The Guardian is one of the few where you can still access news for free, but you have the option of contributing or subscribing. So you see this the supporting and the contributing bar at the bottom here. But otherwise, if you don't want to, you can still go in and access the news and it's fine. So for example, you can go in here and there's no limit on the number of articles. So some news agencies rely on sponsorship, on donations, or um, contributions is a nicer term. Some rely on micropayment. Okay? Now, advertising also occurs on other platforms. So if you go to your cell phones, there are some apps that you use to get your news. That is one way of doing it. Then some have a pop-up ad before you can actually access the content, things like that. Okay? Now, online newspapers do have some advantages over print. The problem with print is that it's limited by the number of pages that you can print, by the number of articles you can squeeze onto a page. You can't squeeze more than what is prescribed, because if you do that, your text becomes smaller and people have problems reading your news. So every news story that is published in print is subject to word count and subject to page count. So editors find themselves picking and choosing which news is hot for now, and what's attractive, what is relevant, and what's not. But with online news, you can have pretty much everything from the not so important to the super relevant type of news. Okay, you can have a diverse range of content. So let's go back to the Guardian and take a look. So you can, if you look at the Guardian, you can have everything. You've got news broken down into world, UK, environment, science, global development, football, tech, obituaries. You have columnists, you have the editor's view. For your sports, you've split it. You've got radio, lifestyle. Now, if you look at more, you will see video, podcasts, pictures, newsletters, even crossword. You have archives. Now, let's say if I were to go to podcasts, I would see the latest, okay, there's podcast stories here, long reads, politics weekly. So there are many things that you can do using a digital platform. Okay, you can generate content as well. And newspapers, online newspapers can be updated constantly. You don't have to worry if you make a typo. Okay, what happens is you just go in and you make the change. And it's a plus when it comes to interactivity because these papers have chat rooms, they have bulletin boards, some of them have forums. So if we go back to Guardian and let's take a look. So that's your archive, okay, for your podcast. Um, if I were to take world news and let's go to, maybe I don't find what I want, so I go to search and I just put in here Malaysia. I get, wow, Malaysia, the world government. Okay, so you get all these things, okay, at a go. Let's say I can click here on this link. I will get, of course, an ad. I will get recommended other stories. I get links that take me to, let's say, Mahathir. So what does it say here? It's all the articles related to Mahathir and arranged chronologically. Okay, so that's what the links here mean. There are photos, okay, some will have videos. Sorry if I'm scrolling a bit fast, yeah. Then you have your share buttons, you've got more stories, you've got sponsored links, okay, and then what's popular. And in some websites, like Says, there is actually the comment button. And you can have even live um, videos going on, you know. See here your live breaking news, for example, what's going on. And this is the feed from Twitter. So there's a lot of interactivity where you can see what's happening and you can interact. There's a lot of movement going on. Okay. Now, when you look at journalism, you can see that social media is also playing its role together with what is known as the citizen journalist. So although most newspapers don't use much of social media, today we look and see at issues like COVID-19, we see newspapers actually breaking the story on social media first and hosting the content on their website. Okay, examples would be they use Twitter to plug the headlines, or they use it as a polling device. So if we were to go back to the Guardian and just type in Twitter, um, Malaysia Kini or Malaysian Insider, for example. So here I have the stories, okay, the retweets. So these are actually headlines, and if you click them, they will actually go to the actual story on Malaysian Insider, where you have the editor's pick, and then there's the subscription, and this is the comments. So you need to sign in to go to the comments. All right. If you were to go to BFM, radio, I know it's not journalism, but just to show you what you can do, BFM actually had infographics and they actually had a poll a while back. And I need to scroll down because, yeah, so this is the poll. They can actually run polls online and get engagement from people. And in some places, with some newspapers, users can actually share videos and participate in sites where you can post pictures, um, and host. Now I don't have recent examples, but in the past there were situations where you can actually take a photo, email it to the star, and get paid 50 ringgit to have it published on a certain page and whatnot. So newspapers are a way of allowing the user to participate in the whole information sharing and gathering process. Okay? And it's helpful because when it comes to breaking news, you have a lot of so-called citizen journalists running around instead of hiring stringers. Okay? The problem, though, is that when it comes to credibility and objectivity, this can be a real problem because all of us have biases, we have our own angles to pursuing a story, and it might not be accurate or objective. So when it comes to news that you see from users, do take it with a pinch of salt and check on credibility and objectivity. Yeah. Now I'm going to stop here and put up a video on a citizen journalist called Tim Pool. He's quite well known in the US for covering current issues, and he's an in person, okay, an in person when it comes to a citizen journalist style of reporting, and he's representative of the kind of journalism that is taking place today. The video is dated in November 2019, so it's still pretty recent. When you're watching it, right, have a look and see at the kind of work that he does. All right.